Deep in the heart of a continent, nestled between vast deserts and soaring mountains, lies a land whose name itself seems to echo with the weight of forgotten time. A land of mythic cities and whispered legends. This is Uzbekistan. For centuries, its turquoise domes and sand-colored walls were not on the periphery of the world, but at its very nexus. A place where civilizations met, clashed, and blended into something new and brilliant. But the tides of history are relentless. How does a land once at the very center of the known world become a name on the edge of our maps? To find the answer, we must journey back not just through space, but through the monumental layers of time itself to the age of empires. The story begins with a name that is more than a name, it is a legend. The Silk Road. But we must not imagine a single, dusty track. Think of it instead as the vast circulatory system of the ancient world. A sprawling network of arteries and veins that carried not only silk and spices, but the very lifeblood of human progress. Through these arteries flowed ideas, faiths, philosophies, and the revolutionary language of numbers. And at the beating heart of this network lay the cities of this land: Samarkand, Bukhara, Khiva, shimmering oases of commerce and intellect. They were the great marketplaces of thought, where a merchant from Venice might share tea with a monk from China and a scholar from Baghdad could debate astronomy with an Indian mathematician. It was this immense wealth, both of coin and of culture, that drew the attention of the world's greatest conquerors. But it was from this very soil that one of the most formidable figures in history would arise. In the 14th century, the region was dominated by a name whispered with both terror and awe, Emir Timur, known to the West as Tamerlane. He was a conqueror of staggering ambition, but his vision extended far beyond the battlefield. His goal was not merely to rule the world, but to adorn it. He gathered the most brilliant artisans, architects, and thinkers from across his vast empire, bringing them to his homeland with a singular, magnificent purpose: to make his capital, Samarkand, the jewel of the earth. What he built was not just a city, it was a declaration etched in turquoise and gold. A testament to power, faith, and the boundless potential of human creativity. Was this the vanity of a conqueror, or the vision of a founder? Perhaps it was both. For in his wake he left a legacy of architectural splendor that has rarely been equaled, a golden age for Central Asia whose echoes still resonate today. To truly understand this legacy, you must stand in one place at one particular time. You must stand in the heart of Samarkand, in the vast expanse of the Registan square as the sun begins its descent. It is here that you are no longer just an observer, you become a participant in history. The sheer scale of the three great madrasas rising around you is humbling, designed to make you feel small in the face of God and knowledge. As the light softens, the intricate tile work, a kaleidoscope of azure, turquoise, and lapis lazuli, seems to glow from within. The air itself feels different here, as if it hums with the ghosts of scholars and poets, of merchants and kings who walked these same stones centuries ago. This is not merely looking at architecture, it is feeling the weight and the wonder of a civilization at its absolute peak. These monuments and the culture they represent form the very bedrock of Uzbekistan's identity. They are a proud testament to a time when this land was not a remote nation but an epicenter of global influence. They are a reminder, carved in stone and tile, of a past that was anything but peripheral. But empires, even those that seem eternal, eventually fade. As the centuries turned, the great arteries of the Silk Road began to wither, and the world's gaze shifted to new horizons and sea lanes. The dust of the ancient caravans began to settle. And a new power, a modern empire with a radically different vision for the world, was rising on the horizon, ready to cast its long shadow over the heart of Asia. How does a civilization, defined for a millennium by its intricate tile work and poetic faith, learn to speak the language of steel and revolution? The end of the 19th and the dawn of the 20th century brought not just a new era but a new world order to Central Asia. First came the influence of the Russian Empire, and then a force that would reshape the very fabric of this land, the Soviet Union. Under the red flag, Uzbekistan was thrust into a radical and often brutal transformation. The goal was not evolution, but a complete reinvention. A new society, a new identity, a new kind of human being. The ancient rhythms of life were systematically dismantled. Mosques became warehouses, madrasas became museums of atheism, and the Arabic script, which had carried the region's poetry and scholarship for centuries, was replaced. In its place came a new language of progress, Russian, and a new economic gospel. Agriculture was collectivized. Industry was forged. And in the fertile valleys, one crop was elevated above all others, a plant that would fuel the Soviet textile machine and, in doing so, precipitate one of the planet's greatest man-made ecological disasters. It was called white gold, cotton. To feed the insatiable thirst of this new king, the two great rivers that had nourished Central Asia for millennia, the Amu Darya and the Sir Darya, were diverted. Their life-giving water was rerouted, not to its ancient destination, but to endless, uniform fields of cotton. And so, the Aral Sea, once the fourth largest lake on Earth, a vast inland ocean teeming with life, began to die. Foot by foot, the shoreline receded. Year by year, the water grew saltier, the life within it vanishing. What was the price of this progress? It was the sacrifice of a sea. A body of water so immense it shaped the very climate now offered up on the altar of a 5-year plan. To stand on the former shores of the Aral Sea today is to witness a ghost. Imagine being a fisherman in the port city of Moynak. You watch as the water, the very source of your identity and livelihood, retreats from your doorstep each year, leaving behind a barren, salt-encrusted desert. Your boat, once your pride, now lies motionless, listing to one side. Then another joins it. And another. Until the harbor is no longer a harbor but a silent, rusting graveyard of ships stranded in a sea of sand. They are monuments not to a battle but to a slow, quiet tragedy, a quiet that is somehow louder and more haunting than any explosion. Yet, amid this story of loss, there are also tales of creation and resilience. In 1966, a catastrophic earthquake leveled the heart of the capital, Tashkent, leaving over 300,000 people homeless. In a matter of moments, the city was reduced to rubble. But from that devastation, a new Tashkent rose. In an unprecedented display of Soviet unity, workers from every republic were sent to rebuild the city. The result was a model Soviet metropolis, grand, orderly, with wide boulevards and monumental, earthquake-proof buildings. And deep beneath the ground, another marvel was constructed. The Tashkent Metro. This was no mere transit system, it was an underground art gallery, a series of subterranean palaces. Each station is a unique masterpiece of marble, granite, and chandeliers, a testament to the power and artistic vision of the era. Then the great wheel of history turned once more. In 1991, the Soviet Union dissolved. And after 7 decades as a republic within a larger state, Uzbekistan was reborn as an independent nation. A new chapter had begun, filled with both the promise of sovereignty and the profound challenge of rediscovering a national identity that had been suppressed for so long. It meant reconnecting with the deep roots of its Islamic heritage while reconciling the undeniable and often beautiful legacy of the Soviet years. Through all this upheaval, the jewels of the ancient Silk Road endured. They survived the fall of empires, the redrawing of maps, and the shifting of ideologies. They remained waiting patiently for the world to find them again. And it is to these legendary cities that our journey now takes us. To travel through Uzbekistan is to walk through the pages of a history book, but this is a book whose pages are not made of paper but of sun-baked earth and brilliant, turquoise tiles. The legacy of the great empires and the Silk Road is not a distant memory here, it is a living, breathing presence. And nowhere is this presence felt more profoundly than in 3 legendary cities, a trio of jewels that have captivated travelers for centuries. Our first destination is the most magnificent of them all, Samarkand. This is more than a city, it is a name that for millennia has been synonymous with splendor. It is the Rome of the East, the pearl of the Islamic world. Samarkand was the glittering capital of Emir Timur's empire, and its heart is the single most breathtaking architectural ensemble in Central Asia, the Registan. To call it a square is an understatement. It is an open-air cathedral, a public stage on an epic scale, flanked by 3 monumental madrasas. Their majestic portals, soaring minarets, and fluted azure domes were designed not just to impress, but to overwhelm, to make the individual feel the immense power of both God and knowledge. To stand here is to feel the centuries collapse, to hear the phantom echoes of scholars debating, of merchants haggling, and of royal decrees being read to the masses. Samarkand is a city of superlatives, a symphony in blue. From the grand symphony of Samarkand, our journey takes us to a more intimate yet equally enchanting melody, the holy city of Bukhara. If Samarkand is a magnificent public monument, Bukhara is a living, ancient library, its stories whispered in quiet courtyards and labyrinthine alleyways. For over 2,000 years, this city was a beacon of Islamic scholarship and commerce, so revered that it was known simply as Bukhara the Noble. Unlike Samarkand's wide boulevards, much of Bukhara's magic lies in its protected Old City, a UNESCO World Heritage Site where time seems to have slowed. Here, you can wander for hours, discovering sand-colored mosques, ancient trading domes, and over 100 madrasas. The city's skyline is defined not by a collection of domes, but by one iconic structure, the 12th-century Kulyan minaret. For 9 centuries it has stood, a towering lighthouse in a sea of sand, surviving the destructive fury of Genghis Khan, who was reportedly so impressed by its beauty that he ordered it spared. Bukhara is not a city you simply see, it is a city you feel, a place where the soul of the old Silk Road is still palpable in the air. To stand in the center of the Registan at dusk is to be humbled by a perfect, overwhelming masterpiece. The scale is almost incomprehensible. 3 immense structures, each a universe of art and learning, face each other across a vast, stone-paved expanse. As the last rays of sun strike the portals, the intricate tilework, a celestial dance of cobalt, gold, and turquoise, ignites with an otherworldly fire. You are no longer a tourist with a camera, you are a witness. A witness to the apex of an empire's ambition, to a moment in history when human hands seem to reach for the divine and, for a fleeting moment, grasp it. The world falls away and there is only the silence, the monumental beauty, and the profound, humbling weight of time. From the lived-in history of Bukhara we make our final stop in a place that feels like stepping directly into a forgotten fairy tale, Khiva. Of the 3 jewels, Khiva is the most perfectly preserved, a fossilized city of exquisite beauty. Its heart is Ikankala, the walled inner city, a fortress of mud brick and tile that has changed little in the last 200 years. To pass through its gates is to leave the 21st century entirely behind. There are no modern buildings here, no wide avenues. Just a maze of narrow, winding lanes, sand-colored minarets, and shimmering turquoise domes. It feels less like a city and more like an open-air museum, a complete, self-contained world. What makes Khiva so unique is its completeness. You can almost hear the clang of the blacksmith's hammer and smell the spices from a long-vanished caravan. It is a city that feels captured in amber, a perfect, preserved dream of the Silk Road. Samarkand, Bukhara, and Khiva. They are not merely collections of old buildings, they are characters in Uzbekistan's grand narrative. The grand statement, the quiet soul, and the preserved dream. But the spirit of this land is found not only in the majesty of its monuments, but in the everyday rituals that give it life. To truly understand Uzbekistan, we must turn from its magnificent architecture to its equally magnificent table. If the great madrasas and mosques are the architectural soul of Uzbekistan, then its true, beating heart is found in the chaotic, colorful, and fragrant world of the bazaar. For centuries, these markets have been the centers of community life, the stages where commerce, culture, and conversation collide. To step into a place like the Korsa Bazaar in Tashkent or the Sayab Bazaar in Samarkand is to be immersed in a festival for the senses. The air is thick with the scent of spices, grilled meat, and fresh herbs. The eyes are dazzled by pyramids of glistening fruits, mountains of nuts and seeds, and the vibrant patterns of traditional textiles. And the ears are filled with the rhythmic hum of life, the friendly calls of vendors, the animated chatter of shoppers, and the timeless art of the haggle. This is where Uzbekistan is most alive. Here, in the heart of the bazaar, you will find the first pillar of Uzbek cuisine, an item so revered it is considered sacred, naan, the traditional bread. This is not the uniform, mass-produced loaf you find in a supermarket. Uzbek naan is an art form. Each piece is a unique creation, stamped with an intricate, personal seal called a chekich before being slapped onto the searing hot, curved walls of a clay oven, the tandoor. Watching a master baker at work is like watching a graceful, dangerous dance. With astonishing speed and precision, they reach into the blistering heat, retrieving perfectly baked discs of bread, crisp and golden on the outside, soft and fluffy on the inside. To the Uzbek people, naan is more than just food. It is a symbol of life, of hospitality, and of home. It is never placed upside down and it is never cut with a knife, only broken by hand and shared. From the foundational simplicity of bread, we move to the undisputed king of the Uzbek table, a dish so central to the culture that it is recognized by UNESCO as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity. This is plav. To call it merely rice with meat is to do it a profound injustice. Plav is a culinary epic, a communal masterpiece cooked in a huge, cauldron-like pan called a kazan. The process itself is a ritual. It begins with chunks of lamb or beef, seared in oil until perfectly browned. Then come the layers of yellow carrots, chickpeas, and perhaps raisins or barberries all simmering together to create a rich, savory sweet base. Finally, the rice is carefully spread on top, not stirred, but steamed by the fragrant vapors rising from below. A whole head of garlic is often buried in the center, slowly softening until it becomes creamy and sweet. The making of plav is traditionally a man's domain, an art passed down from father to son. The ashpaz, or plav master, is a figure of immense respect. To watch an ashpaz prepare a massive kazan of plav for a wedding or a festival is to witness a performance of culinary skill and intuition. They don't measure with cups or scales, but with hands and eyes, guided by generations of experience. The final moment, when the master chef ceremoniously mixes the layers together and serves the fragrant, glistening mound of rice and meat, is a moment of pure celebration. Plav is not just a national dish, it is the taste of community, of celebration, of Uzbekistan itself. But what truly defines the culinary landscape is the unabashed love of meat. From sizzling skewers of shashlik grilling over hot coals, sending plumes of fragrant smoke into the air, to the hearty, baked pastries called samsa, filled with spiced lamb and onions, meat is the centerpiece of almost every meal. Even the national dish, plav, is a testament to this carnivorous devotion. And for the more adventurous palate, there is kaze, a traditional sausage made from horse meat, a delicacy with deep nomadic roots. This is a cuisine born of the land, hearty, generous, and designed to be shared. To sit at an Uzbek table is to understand the soul of its people. It is to break bread with new friends, to be served a heaping plate of plav as a gesture of honor, and to feel the warmth of a culture that expresses its deepest values not through words but through the simple, powerful act of feeding a guest. It is in this generosity, this profound spirit of welcome, that we find the true character of the nation. A nation, in the end, is not defined by its monuments or its cuisine, but by its people. And to travel through Uzbekistan is to constantly encounter a quality that is as warm and life-giving as the sun in the desert, a profound and genuine hospitality. This is a culture where a guest is considered a gift from God. It is not uncommon for a stranger, upon learning you are a visitor, to invite you into their home for a cup of tea, to share whatever they have, and to treat you not as a tourist, but as an honored friend. This spirit of welcome is perhaps the most enduring legacy of the Silk Road, a tradition passed down through generations who understood that a traveler, far from home, is in need of kindness. This warmth is woven into a society that is at once deeply traditional and surprisingly modern. The dominant faith here is Islam, but it is an Islam of a distinctly Central Asian character, moderate, tolerant, and seamlessly integrated with centuries of local customs. You will see ancient mosques and madrasas revered as centers of history and culture, but you will also see a society that values personal freedom. Unlike in many other parts of the Islamic world, there are no strict dress codes. It is common to see a woman in a traditional, brightly colored dress walking alongside a friend in modern, Western attire. This is a place where faith is deeply personal and respect, rather than rigid enforcement, is the guiding principle. It is a harmonious blend, a quiet dance between the sacred and the secular. This unique cultural identity has been shaped by a complex history. The Uzbek language, with its Turkic roots, is the official tongue, a proud symbol of national sovereignty. Yet the influence of the Soviet era remains undeniable. Russian is still widely spoken, especially in the capital and among the older generations. It serves as a language of business, of interethnic communication, and as a bridge to the wider world. To walk through a bookstore in Tashkent is to see this duality firsthand. Shelves filled with the poetry of Alisher Navoy, the father of Uzbek literature, sit comfortably alongside the great novels of Tolstoy and Dostoevsky. This is not a culture in conflict with its past, but one that has absorbed its many layers, creating a rich and resilient identity. One of the most powerful expressions of this identity is found not in grand pronouncements, but in the intricate work of human hands. In cities like Khiva and Bukhara, ancient crafts are not relics of the past, they are a vibrant part of the present. Here, you can watch a master artisan meticulously hand-knotting a silk carpet, each thread a brushstroke in a design that has been passed down for centuries. You can see a potter, his hands covered in clay, transforming a formless lump into an elegant piece of blue and white ceramic. And you can witness the grace and energy of traditional Uzbek dance, where shimmering costumes and fluid movements tell stories of love, nature, and history. These arts are more than just souvenirs, they are the threads that connect the present to a deep and storied past. To truly understand the heart of the Uzbek people, you need only sit down for tea. Tea is the lubricant of all social life here, the universal gesture of welcome. It is served in small, handleless bowls called pialas, and the host will first pour a little into their own bowl and then back into the pot, a sign of respect and a way to ensure the tea is perfectly brewed. This small, graceful ritual says everything. It speaks of a culture that values patience, respect, and the simple, profound act of sharing a moment with another person. It is in these quiet interactions, these gestures of unforced generosity, that the true character of Uzbekistan reveals itself. This, then, is the human landscape of Uzbekistan, a people fiercely proud of their ancient heritage, yet open to the currents of the modern world. A society that holds its traditions close, but whose greatest tradition of all may be its open and welcoming heart. But what is it like to live in this land today, to navigate the realities of its modern economy and the challenges that lie ahead on its path of rediscovery? That is where our journey takes us next. Our journey through Uzbekistan has taken us through the monumental past, but what of its present? What is the reality of life in this nation as it navigates the complex currents of the 21st century? To walk the streets of a modern Uzbek city is to see a country in transition, a place where the echoes of the Silk Road and the Soviet era meet the ambitions of a new generation. One of the first things a visitor might notice is a peculiar uniformity on the roads. Almost every car seems to be a white Chevrolet. This is not a coincidence, but the result of a post-independence economic strategy, a partnership that created a near monopoly, making cars affordable for the local population and becoming a unique, rolling symbol of the modern Uzbek economy. Life for many Uzbeks is a story of resilience and hard work. The country is rich in natural resources, gold, natural gas, and, of course, cotton, but this wealth has not always translated into high wages for the average person. The monthly income for many remains modest by global standards, a reality that has fueled a significant migration of young people seeking opportunities abroad. Yet, at the same time, there is a palpable sense of optimism. In the last decade, Uzbekistan has opened up to the world in unprecedented ways. Economic reforms are underway, international businesses are arriving, and a new energy is visible in the bustling cafes and entrepreneurial ventures of Tashkent. For the traveler, this new openness has made Uzbekistan one of the most accessible and rewarding destinations in the world. But visiting a country so rich in culture requires a bit of practical wisdom. Firstly, while Uzbekistan is a remarkably safe and stable country, it is wise to be aware of common tourist scams. A taxi fare might be quoted at an inflated price, or someone might offer an unsolicited tour for a fee. The best defense is a polite refusal and a confident awareness, or better yet, agreeing on prices beforehand. Secondly, timing your visit is crucial. The Uzbek summer is mercilessly hot, with temperatures in the desert and cities like Bukhara often soaring above 40 degrees Celsius. The ideal times to visit are in the spring, from April to May, when the desert blooms, and in the autumn, from September to October, when the heat subsides and the market stalls are overflowing with melons and pomegranates. Finally, while you can certainly get by with English in major tourist hubs, learning a few basic words in Uzbek or Russian like Assalamu alaikum, hello, or Rahmet, thank you, will be met with beaming smiles and an even warmer welcome. It is a small gesture that shows respect and opens doors to more meaningful interactions. So, what is the final impression of this extraordinary land? Uzbekistan is a country of profound and beautiful contradictions. It is a place where 1,000 years of history can be felt in the silence of a desert mosque and where the pulse of a modernizing nation can be felt on a bustling city street. It is a land of epic landscapes and quiet, human moments. It is a nation that has been shaped by conquerors and commissars, yet has held fast to its own unique and generous soul. To travel here is to do more than just see beautiful things. It is to be reminded that history is not a static thing confined to museums, but a living force that continues to shape the present. It is to experience a hospitality that feels like a balm in a hurried world. And it is to witness a nation long at the crossroads of empires, now confidently finding its own path forward. The age of the great caravans may be over, but the journey to the heart of the Silk Road is more rewarding than ever. It is a journey that stays with you long after you have returned home, a turquoise echo in the memory.